Thanks for joining us here on Service School Stories. Your hosts for this season are Alec Emmert, Service School CEO and Navy veteran,
and Sydney Mathis, Chief Program Officer and former college admissions officer. This season will cover topics as it relates to higher education, military service transition, and career opportunities and outcomes for veterans. Join us as we share student stories, inside tips from the admissions office, and conversations with employers actively hiring student veterans. Here we go. All right, everyone, welcome to Service to School Stories podcast. I am joined by two of our partner institutions today. Very excited to have Adam Sapp, who is the Assistant Vice President and Director of Undergraduate Admissions at Pomona College, as well as Alex DiAddezio, Senior Assistant Director of Admission at Williams College. Excited to chat with both of them today as we talk through how to best position yourself in the workplace through a liberal arts education. So for our listeners, a liberal arts education is a well-rounded, holistic approach to preparation for life and career. And as the conversation around the traditional college experience, is it worth it? It's my hope that our guests today will be able to help our listeners better understand the benefits and the value of pursuing a liberal arts education and studying at one of either of your incredible institutions. So Adam, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to turn it over to you for you to just give a brief introduction for our listeners. Adam, we'll get started with you.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. As you said, Sydney, my name is Adam Sapp. I'm the Assistant Vice President and Director of Admission at Pomona. This is my 8th year at Pomona, and as the director, I sort of oversee the day-to-day operations of the office, and I have a couple of territories nationally and internationally that I work on, but veterans and our community college initiatives are an important part of my work, and I'm really happy to be here to talk about that today.
Great, thanks, Adam. Alex, what about yourself?
Hi, everyone. Excited to be with you. My name is Alex DiAddezio. I'm Senior Assistant Director of Admission at Williams College. This is my 5th year at the college and 5th year working with transfer and veteran initiatives, 4th year leading that work. It's a big part of my portfolio and so eager about the work that's happening on our campus to bring folks into the fold. So excited to have a conversation about it today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, both of us have spoken at length about, especially when we're supporting student vets throughout the admissions process, the outcome, right? They come to us here at Service to School and they say, all right, I want to study, go potentially get an MBA, or I know I want to go on to medical school. And when we are talking through, the college research piece, I think it's really important for our listeners to have a full understanding of opportunities and experiences that are available to them through some of our partnerships like Williams and Pomona. So today I kind of want to go through 3 different prongs of, a liberal arts education and how that supports you on through career obtainment after graduation. So let's start with some misconceptions. So typically when we're talking with applicants and they are saying, okay, well, if I want to go on to study engineering, how am I going to do that in a liberal arts education? Or some folks are thinking that liberal arts colleges focus solely on the arts. So Alex and Adam, let's hear from you all. How do you approach that when a student comes to you and is like, well, I just don't know if, this education path is going to help me get where I want to go. Alex, let's chat with you first.
Absolutely. This is, I think, something common that we hear. And so it makes sense that it be in this section. I think that the first thing that I say is a liberal arts education is really designed to be flexible and adaptable. It's why I think it's so geared for kind of our modern way of doing things, where people are constantly switching careers, career fields that they're in are constantly looking a lot different year to year as technology evolves and changes. And a liberal arts education is really designed to speak directly to that. It's how it's set up. So the kind of bottom line is, it can work for you no matter what you're interested in. And it's a matter of figuring out what it really is, what are its facets, what are the fine details, and is that a good fit for you and what you're looking for in your college experience? But in terms of, can it get me to where I want to go? The answer is pretty much always going to be yes. So really thinking quite broadly about what it is that you're looking for in your college experience and how it is that you want to come at that. Is the interdisciplinary element of learning really important to you? Do you want to kind of be able to make connections across across lots of different academic areas? Are you really interested in partnering that with lots of hands-on experiences like internships and research and things like that? All of those things happen really regularly and in really powerful ways with a liberal arts education, and they can set you up for a really successful kind of post-grad experience. But I'll let Adam kind of continue that.
Yeah, I think Alex is spot on. I mean, I would just offer the idea that there isn't really any area of knowledge that you can know solely without connecting it to other areas of knowledge. And that is truly what the liberal arts teaches you, is not necessarily a preference for what to study, but an ability to connect your interests to the world around you and deepen the understanding of those interests and passions. And as you think about not what career you want, but rather what kinds of problems you want to solve, which I think is a much better way to think about a career and a sort of a lifetime of learning and a lifetime of leading, I think you will probably find that most of the problems that people want to work on, climate change, migration, global economic challenges, those big questions that we're asking about now and in the future we'll be asking about, they almost all have interdisciplinary solutions. There is not one way to solve these problems, and the liberal arts teaches you the way in which and provides a foundation under which you can build over the course of your life to solve these problems through lots of different lenses, whether you're a physicist or you're a politics major or whether you're a historian or you're an economist. There's a lot of ways to solve problems, and the liberal arts elevates the problem-solving technique of interdisciplinary understanding, which is fundamental to, I think, how we're going to solve a lot of the big problems that we face today.
Yeah, and I think one thing that you've both kind of touched on briefly, right? And as we see all of these layoffs across the tech sector, you both have mentioned like career flexibility, right? And obtaining skills that allow you to potentially pivot in a career, that you aren't just graduating and, that first job that you get after graduation, what happens after that job? Or what if you are, unfortunately laid off? Like, being able to make a pivot and have skills that you feel confident in to present to a potential new employer, I think is really important. But also, I have to remind people all the time that, that first job that students get after graduation, they're not going to stay in that job forever, right? If they ever want to move up into a management role, they have to be able to work with people. They have to have social skills. They have to be able to communicate. It's those soft skills that will allow them to progress throughout their fields, that it's not just going to be that, all right, well, your first job, you're in this for, the foreseeable future. I think that's just, some of the parts of graduation and return on investment that get forgotten. Like, your career is not just one job. One thing I pointed out, or I did a little bit of research on both of your institutions in terms of academic major offerings, which again, this kind of ties into the misconception. As a liberal arts institution, you both offer computer science. You both have, a neuroscience, econ, politics. Like, those are all majors that students typically want to study to go on to, future graduate work. And, a quick search, Pomona majors, it came up with what the students are interested in. So I think that is truly also one of the biggest misconceptions, is that you're only offering classics or medieval studies. There's so much, to dig into about the curriculum and the major offerings. Anything to add on any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just really briefly say that I think it's, partly something that we're all working on. And this is something I've talked about with Adam and others, is that we often default to liberal arts, but it's really liberal arts and sciences. So yes, it's absolutely true. Thanks for drawing attention to it, that it's STEM offerings, that, things like economics, political science, all of those things are really built into our model, into our curriculum. They're not tangential add-ons that we've, put in there because there's interest. There's something that is really just as much foundational to our academic approach and to the interdisciplinary approach that we're touching on as anything else. And I think Adam's said it so well at trying to describe the kind of whole person and whole kind of, academic areas that we really offer and think about. That's really the approach that we take in the admissions process, as well as trying to think about who you are as a whole. And it just continues into the actual experience you have on our campus, is allowing you to really think about all of the different facets of what it is you want to do, and then providing you with the tools and resources that are plentiful on our campuses to really be able to get that done.
Absolutely. Okay, so we talked a little bit about some misconceptions. This is where I want to spend a bulk of our time talking a little bit about the academic experiences, some of the smaller class sizes, leadership opportunities, research opportunities. Adam, can you share with us a little bit about what the academic experience is like, both inside and outside of the classroom for students studying at Pomona?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that is very important to understand is that the students that we're looking for are balancing an interest in academic preparation for a major with an interest in engaging in non-classroom activities. So what we would call extracurricular activities or activities outside of the classroom. And we believe, and I know that Alex and Williams believes this as well, it's that balance that's powerful. And so, yes, we are interested in looking at your transcript. Yes, we are interested in looking at the work that you have, that maybe the job that you've had in the military or the jobs that you've had over the course of your service. We're also, if you're in a community college, interested in community college classes. And I think all of that is important because it really plays a role in your preparation for our courses. And so at the heart of our curricula as liberal arts institutions, we are going to move you through 2, 3, 4, depending upon when you enter, 2, 3, or 4 years of school at our institutions, that you are going to be able to take a major, which is about a third of your classes. You're going to be able to take some electives, which are a second third of your classes. And you're going to have, depending upon the institution, you may have some area studies requirements or some breadth and depth requirements that are kind of liberal arts foundation courses requirements that are a final third of your curriculum. And so one of the things that we hope that you want to do is not just take a lot of classes in your major, because that is actually not how it works. And that isn't really also how it works at university. So even if you go into a school of engineering, you're going to take more than engineering classes, even though you're going to take a lot of engineering classes. We would say on our end at Williams and Pomona that you are going to take a lot of classes in your major. We're super happy about that. But you need to want to take those classes outside of your major, maybe pick up a second major, maybe pick up a minor, have opportunities and time for research, be able to connect that research to internships. And so it's that whole experience that becomes important, which is why when we're, as admissions officers, looking really critically at applications, that we are actually going back to high school. I think a lot of veterans don't think we care about high school because it was a long time ago for many of them. That's not true. We actually do look at that. We contextualize it properly. And Alex can talk about that. But one of the things that's really important to our academic experience is that interest in doing more than your major. And that becomes, fundamental to how we talk about our institutions.
Yeah, Alex, what about you all over at Williams?
Yeah, so much of what Adam said is true for us as well, as he was indicating. But I'll expand on it a bit. And I think Adam touching on the high school experiences is important too, to what I'll inevitably sound like a broken record with this, but that whole person approach that I'm mentioning, it's really about knowing where did you start and where are you now, and then helping to get you to that next place that you want to get to, and continuing to think about your journey as a whole. And that's why something like a high school transcript is just an interesting element for us to look at, because it's a part of your story. So once you get to our campuses, again, I think everything Adam said rings true at Williams, but for both of our campuses also, you're really going to get that really personalized, intimate kind of learning environment as well. So with all of these kind of, larger questions about what it is you want to study and what types of topics you're interested in tackling, really, no matter what your answer is to that, once you actually get to a classroom and you're in a room, you're going to be there with a small group of folks, often sitting around a table, really getting to dive into interesting discussions, ask your questions, be an active part of the learning process with a professor there in the room always. All of our classes are taught by professors, and that professor is engaging with you deeply too. It's really just often looked at as a collaborative experience where everybody's offering up an important part of the learning exercise. And so that's a really regular part of what we offer. And that's true when you're taking biology classes. That's true when you're taking economics classes. That's true when you're taking English classes. It's really no matter what you sign up for, you're getting that kind of really personalized learning environment. And that's really I think, a key element of what the liberal arts offers in the classroom and outside of it too. That really kind of that ability to build close relationships, to extend those relationships over many years, and to really get to lean on all of the value that comes from those individual connections.
Can I just build on that? Because I think part of this, the way that we describe it, I think you could be forgiven if you don't understand the liberal arts. I think you could be forgiven for thinking that this feels a little fluffy, that this feels a little bit like, okay, but what am I learning? And so let me just sort of re-emphasize that and say, if you want to be an expert in chemistry, you can come to our institutions and be an expert in chemistry. Jen Doudna, one of our alums, won the Nobel in chemistry 3 years ago. That's expertise. If you want to be the climate scientist that is commenting on the future of where policy needs to go when it comes to climate science and economic policy in this country, both Williams and Pomona have alums who work in those spaces, who are those voices, and their undergraduate education is the reason that expertise was able to be developed. And so, lest you think that some of this sounds like a sort of a great way to kind of learn, but you're not quite sure what it means is that expertise comes out of understanding complex issues by understanding the fundamentals of how those issues connect to the world. And that is really what expertise is based in. Not knowing everything about chemistry or knowing everything about economics, but knowing how chemistry and economics connect to everything else. And that is what an education at Pomona and Williams is so incredibly good at.
Yeah, that's a great bridge, Adam. Can we talk a little bit about undergraduate research? So imagine students are coming to your institutions and, they aren't necessarily competing for those graduate research slots, right? They are able to, at the undergraduate level, get some of that one-on-one experience with faculty members that are doing, really, really great projects. Adam, can you talk a little bit about research opportunities for students at Pomona?
Yeah, at Pomona specifically, we have lots of ways to do research, but I'll talk about two in particular that make a difference here. One is called SERP, the Summer Undergraduate Research Program. It's a funded summer research initiative where students are paid to work with a faculty member to conduct research, almost exclusively their own research questions, though sometimes they are faculty initiated or faculty collaborations in terms of the research questions. And that research is essentially 8 to 10 weeks of research time that you're dedicating toward a particular project or a particular question. And sometimes that may be a research project that launches you into senior year for your senior research requirement. Sometimes it's a standalone independent project that gets published alongside your professor because you're working in a space that isn't your senior research space, but is kind of joined with it or sort of aligned with it. And that is often something that sophomores and juniors will do in their summer. So second and third year students in their summertime months, so basically be on campus. And the second program is not necessarily research, it's more about internships, and it's called the PSIP, the Pomona College Internship Program. And this provides funding for low wage or no wage internships. So if a firm in Silicon Valley is going to hire you as a computer science major, I'm guessing they have the money to pay your salary. And so you don't need Pomona's summer internship funding. But let's say you are a politics and Spanish major and you get a really cool opportunity to write for a Spanish language newspaper in Peru. Well, you don't have the money to get there, you don't have the money to live there, and you don't have the money to function when you're in Lima. Well, that's where Pomona comes in and says, okay, well, put together a budget proposal. We will fund your unfunded internship. And if you're really interested in journalism and you have the language skills to do the reporting in Spanish and you want to live in Peru for 8 weeks, we will help provide that funding to make that possible because they're not able to do that. So they give you the internship, we give you the paycheck. So that's really the two kind of premier programs we have, SERP and PSIP.
Yeah, I love that you use the second example of more of a humanities focused major. Because from my time in admissions, whenever I'd be talking to students about, even our political science students are doing research and they're like, they typically make research and STEM, go hand in hand. But there are ways to do research projects and to create new knowledge within the humanities and to more, less thought of major when it comes to academics. Alex, what about you all at Williams? Can you talk a little bit about research there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just take a moment to coming off what Adam shared, just kind of on a larger level, emphasize, the other thing the liberal arts really offers, and I think I touched on this briefly before, but it's just a number of different resources for students. And, Adam's examples there are really great ones for Pomona, but just the ways in which financial resources and in terms of opportunities, it's just, there's a wealth of them on campus. And so students are able to do some really cool and exciting things. That's true at Williams as well. We also have an alumni sponsored internship program on campus. So same kind of model. If students have things that they want to engage in, but aren't able to get the funding for them otherwise, they can get them through campus. In terms of research beyond that, there are a number of different ways that students can engage in research, and it's very accessible to students. The kind of two, very vague buckets of it first is you can do research during the academic year. That's absolutely possible to do it while you're taking classes, and we have many students that do that. And then you can do research during the summers or, other kinds of in-between periods. So the one big benefit that we offer is if you are doing research anytime on campus, it's always paid. So if you're doing it during the academic year, we pay students for that. If you're doing it over the summers, you get paid, as well as campus housing and food provided if it's not already. So that makes it, I think, even more accessible to students. And kind of beyond that, we also offer flexibility in terms of doing research right near us on campus, as well as doing research in other places that take you away from campus, whether that's abroad or other places within the country. And there are certainly funding resources for that too within our fellowships office and beyond it. But I think broadly, really what I want to say about research is that there are students doing research across the board, as you emphasize. There's students doing their own independent research. There's students doing research within classes that's quite extensive as well. So it doesn't always need to be an extra endeavor beyond the classroom, but it certainly can be. And then there are students who are working alongside professors and helping to move forward exciting projects that our faculty members are embarking on also. And there's all kinds of what I really love that I think happens regularly at Williams, and I'm sure at Pomona as well, is seeing these research projects that students tackle that are really practical too, that sometimes you can see the benefits of and the impact of quite immediately. We had a student this past summer, one of our transfer students, who was working on a research project around our tutorial program, which is a type of class that we offer. So they're a type of class within our larger curriculum where it's just 2 students and 1 professor. So really small class, very different kind of model too, that's based on kind of an exchange of ideas. But she was doing some pretty intensive research on the accessibility and accommodations within that model, and how the tutorial could be improved upon even further to make sure that it was truly accessible to all students and supportive of all students. And so she did that over the summer, got funding to do all of that research, was paid through the summer to be able to do that, had support from a faculty member, but it was really a largely independently run program or project. And that was she came out of that project over the summer with a document that gave very practical recommendations to the tutorial program on what they could do to further improve it. And that's being looked at right now to be implemented. So there's all kinds of examples of things like that. But students make change through this research, and that's what's really exciting as well.
Absolutely. And just 2 points I want to highlight from that is the smaller class sizes and the smaller campuses allow students better access, in my opinion, to these opportunities, as opposed to potentially a larger research institution where you're competing with thousands of students for these research opportunities. So just want to highlight it. That's truly a benefit to the students there, but then also just the relationship students are able to form with these faculty members, right? Like, yes, it's wonderful to walk away with research projects and that transfer of knowledge, but I also think truly seeing what is a takeaway is imagine the recommendation letters that you can get from these faculty members then too. If we are thinking beyond graduation, this faculty member now has first eye witness to some of those soft skills that our employers are looking for, or that graduate programs are looking for in their students. So being able to build those, very close, tight-knit relationships with faculty members that can speak to student strengths inside and outside the classroom, I think is one, a huge fit for students considering a liberal arts education, but also just, I encourage everyone that we interact with, talk to your professors. They are usually the people who are well plugged in, who have a solid network that if you want to get, somewhere in your career, they can usually, be a stepping stone in that direction for you. Which is a great segue into our last section, talking about outcomes and ROI. So thinking through career progression for students as they go through a liberal arts education. And I want to highlight, so we have a lot of service members that come to service to school that are interested in medical school or law school after their time in undergraduate studies. So both of your institutions were listed on Harvard's recent list of incoming 1L students. So students can go to Pomona, can go to Williams, and still, go to some of the best law schools in the country. But also recently published data has both of your institutions with the 85% med school acceptance rate, where the national average is 36%. So truly, students can thrive and continue on to some of really great medical school opportunities as well. But one other thing I think is really important to notice, in 2021, there were 10,000 students that applied to medical school with a major that fell under other, so outside of the sciences or humanities. And there were almost 2,000 applicants who had a humanities major as their major when applying to medical school. So when we're thinking about outcomes and ROI, like both of your institutions are providing those opportunities for students, and that kind of pulls us back into the misconceptions piece. But Alex, can you talk to us a little bit about career preparation and outcomes and that return on investment for a student graduating from Williams?
Yes. There are such great outcomes that come from places like Williams and Pomona. Adam and I could probably spend the next hour just listing stories of great successes that students have had in all kinds of different realms. Again, this goes to the real liberal arts and sciences here, in STEM fields and humanities fields and social services fields, whatever it may be. But on a larger level, I think where the reason for all of that goes back to everything we've already talked about. Students are really successful in their life after places like Williams and Pomona because of the huge network of support that they have behind them. Those relationships that we've been talking about you building at liberal arts institutions, those don't disappear as you move into your life beyond our institution. So you get to tap into those still. You get to ask for advice on how they got to where they went. You get to talk through the resume and the interview process with our career services centers that are really hands-on and really available for one-on-one appointments, as much as, kind of larger workshops and career fairs and things like that. You get to tap into the alumni network, which is a huge resource that extends everywhere within the world and are doing all kinds of interesting and exciting things. So there's so many different ways in which that kind of small, personalized, intimate learning environment that we're talking about that you experience during your however many years on our campuses, becomes a larger part of the narrative for your career journey as well. And that's really special, I think. And it's something that that definitely helps the liberal arts to stand out. And I think is just really tied to all these outcomes that you're mentioning, Sydney, and to all the many outcomes beyond it. And, there's all kinds of different ways in which our transfer and veteran students have gone on to do some really exciting things because of it. And maybe we'll have time for stories at some point. I won't get into them now, but I'll just want to really emphasize the idea that you're not alone when it comes to that question of what do I do next? And that's really monumental.
Yeah, just to thank you. Just to kind of connect some of this, we have a couple of our veterans who graduated in the last 3 to 4 years who are in medical school. They were both double majors. So I will confess one of the majors was a STEM major. The other was not a STEM major in that case. And to me, that's a great illustration of the liberal arts, being able to combine those majors. But one of those whose science major was neuroscience, his research was on early development of Alzheimer's and how to find ways in the brain to figure out if Alzheimer's is more likely or not. That was his undergraduate research project and summer research, and he's now in medical school. Another student who's a veteran is a Marine as well. He was a molecular biology major. That was his STEM major, and his research was on embryo development in roundworms. And he worked with one of our professors who has an ongoing project looking at embryology and roundworms. So he joined a research team, and out of that research came an interest in molecular biology. And he is also now in medical school looking at community medicine and how to be a doctor, a local GP in a Spanish-speaking environment, because that's his interest. So the ways in which you can take your interests and then connect them to research, connect them to a major, connect them to a career, like Alex said, we could go on. We have every example you need. If you want medical school, we can make it happen. If you want law school, we can make it happen. We both have those stories too. We haven't talked about business school, but we also have a healthy number of students going on to get MBAs, going on to get PhDs, going on to get masters in architecture, masters in education. The way that students are able to transform themselves post-Pomona, post-Williams are really as numerous as the students we have.
Absolutely. And I hope one thing that has been central to this conversation for our listeners is understanding how both of your institutions prepare students for life after your institutions, right? Like, yes, there's a lot of great experiences that happen while they are a student, but so much of that is in preparation for career success or career outcomes, right? So when students, I think, they come in with that first initial idea, instead of saying, oh, well, liberal arts education can't get me there. Well, let's have a conversation about how they can, or what that path there could look like. And anytime I have the chance to, send those introduction emails to you all and encourage a student, or even challenge a students, right? Like misconceptions of what that experience could look like when they come and they say, I really want a small campus where I can get to know my faculty members. And it's like, okay, well, have you considered, either of these institutions or any of our other wonderful, smaller liberal arts institutions? I just hope that is a takeaway for our listeners, that your institutions are truly preparing students both inside with those, hands-on experiences, connections with faculty members, but also some more of those soft skills that are necessary and needed and wanted by employers. So thank you both so much for your time, helping our listeners understand better how your institutions could be a good fit for them. Is there any last piece of advice, information, anything that you would like for potential student veterans to know about a liberal arts education or your institutions?
Sure. I can jump in first. So Adam's heard me say this before, so I'll say it again though anyways. But I really encourage students to talk to current students. I think it's just a really helpful way to, as Adam said, sometimes the liberal arts is a little fuzzy, and hopefully we made it a little less fuzzy today, but it might still be a bit fuzzy. And I think it really gets concrete when you can hear directly from an individual what their experience has been, and what are all the individual colors of that experience. And so there are all kinds of ways that institutions have available for students to get connected directly to current students. I'm sure Pomona has a mechanism for it. We have a page right on our website where you can find current students and veterans are listed there to just reach out and ask them, hey, can I hear a little bit about what your experience has been like? I'm trying to figure out where it is that I want to go, and ask the questions that you have on your mind. And I think that's a really helpful way to just further learn about this kind of experience.
Agree with that fully. And I think I would go a different direction and just say, how many times, think back to your service in the military. How many times when you were serving in the military did you solve a problem with only one person in the room? I'm guessing never. How many times in the military did you come to the conclusion that there was only one way to fix something? I'm guessing probably not very often. And if you think about that and you think about what that means, what does that mean? It means you need to collaborate to learn and solve problems. It means you need other people in the room who have other ideas to be able to come together to fix whatever is in front of you. And if that's not a good argument for the fundamentals of why liberal arts education can be so transformative, I don't know what is. It's a different way of thinking about it, but I would actually challenge current veterans right now to say, you already are liberal arts thinkers. You just don't realize it. And all we're going to do is help you use the skills you already have because you're bright and you're talented and you're highly skilled people. We're going to allow you to use those skills in transformative ways to think about your future. And if you do it at Pomona or you do it at Williams or you do it at many of the other great partners here with Service to School, you're going to have great outcomes and you're going to lead an amazing life. And I think at the end of the day, that's what our faculty at Pomona and Williams want. That's what our colleagues at other liberal arts institutions want for you. And we just wish you best of luck on the journey. And we know you can do it. We believe in you.
Thank you both again. I look forward to future collaboration with both of you, supporting student veterans throughout their admissions process and beyond. And we will be in touch soon. Take care, everyone.
That's it for this episode. Join us next week, same time, same place, where we share more Service to School stories. Service to School Stories is hosted by Sydney Mathis, the Director of Student Success, and produced by Amanda DeBias, the Director of Communication at Service to School. Service to School is a 501c3 nonprofit providing free college admission support to transitioning service members and veterans. Join us next time and follow us for more on all of your favorite social media platforms.